What if I told you that the most powerful cancer prevention tool available after the age of 50 doesn't come from a hospital, doesn't require a prescription, and won't cost you a single dollar? It sounds almost too simple to be true, yet the scientific evidence supporting it is stronger than most people realize. In fact, some of the most important discoveries in cancer prevention over the last decade have revealed that the daily choices we make can dramatically influence what happens inside our bodies at the cellular level. The habits we're about to explore aren't based on trends or popular health advice. They come from years of research and real-world results seen in thousands of adults who made small but meaningful changes to their lives. For decades, cancer researchers have tried to answer a question that affects millions of families around the world. Why do some people develop cancer later in life, while others remain healthy well into their senior years? After studying this issue for more than 25 years, many experts have come to a surprising conclusion. While genetics certainly matter, lifestyle factors often play a much larger role than most people think. The encouraging news is that many of these factors are within our control. One of the most influential studies ever conducted on this topic followed more than 135,000 adults over a period of nearly 20 years. Researchers discovered that individuals who consistently followed a specific group of healthy lifestyle habits reduced their overall cancer risk by an astonishing 61%. That's not a minor improvement. It's the difference between significantly increasing your chances of staying healthy and dramatically raising the odds of facing a serious diagnosis later in life. Today, we're going to explore the first of these powerful habits. It may seem straightforward on the surface, but the biological processes behind it are incredibly important. Once you understand what is happening inside your body, you'll never look at certain foods the same way again. Every single day, your body performs an extraordinary task. Trillions of cells constantly divide, replicate, and replace older cells that have reached the end of their lifespan. During this process, tiny mistakes naturally occur. Fortunately, your body is equipped with an advanced repair system designed to catch and correct these errors before they become dangerous. Scientists refer to this process as DNA mismatch repair. Think of DNA mismatch repair as your body's internal editing team. Every time a cell copies itself, this system reviews the genetic instructions and fixes mistakes before they can cause problems. When this repair mechanism functions properly, potentially harmful mutations are often eliminated before they have a chance to develop into something more serious. However, there is a challenge that becomes increasingly important after the age of 50. As we grow older, the efficiency of these repair systems naturally declines. Studies suggest that many DNA repair enzymes become significantly less effective with age, reducing the body's ability to catch and correct cellular mistakes. At the same time, decades of environmental exposure, inflammation, and normal aging have already created additional stress on our cells. This is where nutrition becomes critically important. Many modern diets are filled with ultra-processed foods. These include packaged snacks, fast food meals, processed meats, sugary beverages, and countless convenience products that dominate grocery store shelves. While these foods may save time, they often create conditions inside the body that work directly against our natural defense systems. One of the major problems involves substances known as advanced glycation end products, often abbreviated as AGs. These compounds can increase inflammation throughout the body and interfere with cellular functions that are essential for maintaining healthy DNA. When inflammation remains elevated for long periods, the body's ability to repair damage becomes less efficient, creating an environment where problems can accumulate over time. The scientific evidence supporting this connection continues to grow. In a large study involving nearly 200,000 adults, researchers found that people who consume the highest amounts of ultra-processed foods face substantially greater risks of developing certain cancers compared with those who focused on whole food diets. The increase was significant enough to attract widespread attention within the medical community. What's even more concerning is that some studies have shown these risks remain elevated even after accounting for factors such as obesity, smoking habits, and physical activity levels. This suggests that the foods themselves may contribute directly to cancer risk rather than simply causing weight gain that later leads to health problems. To better understand what this means in real life, consider the story of a woman we'll call Sandra. At 58 years old, Sandra became increasingly concerned about her health after her sister received a diagnosis of colon cancer. Like many adults, she believed her diet was fairly normal. Breakfast often consisted of cereal. Lunch was usually a deli sandwich purchased during a busy workday. Snacks frequently came from vending machines or prepackaged boxes designed for convenience. When Sandra underwent testing, doctors discovered elevated inflammatory markers in her blood. These markers suggested that her body was experiencing ongoing inflammation, even though she felt relatively healthy most of the time. Instead of attempting an extreme diet, Sandra took a much more practical approach. She focused on replacing one processed item at a time with a whole food alternative. Sugary breakfast cereal became oatmeal topped with berries. Packaged snack bars were replaced with fresh fruit and nuts. Processed lunch meats gradually gave way to healthier protein sources and more natural ingredients. The changes weren't dramatic overnight, but they were consistent. Month after month, Sandra continued making small improvements without feeling deprived or overwhelmed. Over the following year, her inflammatory markers dropped significantly. Follow-up evaluations showed improvements that impressed both her and her healthcare providers. Most importantly, she had created a healthier internal environment where her body's natural repair systems could function more effectively. The lesson here isn't perfection. You don't need to completely transform your eating habits in a single week. In fact, trying to change everything at once often leads to frustration and failure. What matters is creating consistent progress. Start with one simple substitution at each meal. Replace a processed breakfast item with a whole food option. Choose fruit, nuts, or vegetables instead of packaged snacks. Swap processed meats for fresher alternatives whenever possible. These small decisions may seem insignificant on a daily basis, but over months and years, they can produce powerful biological changes. And here's something even more interesting. This habit becomes dramatically more effective when combined with the next strategy on our list. In fact, the next habit strengthens one of your body's most powerful anti-cancer defense systems, a system that many adults unknowingly weaken every single night. What you're about to learn next may be one of the most overlooked cancer protection tools available today. What you're about to learn next may be one of the most overlooked cancer protection tools available today. Most people think about it only in terms of energy, mood, or whether they feel tired during the day. Yet from an oncology perspective, its importance reaches far beyond simply feeling rested. In fact, this daily activity directly influences one of the most sophisticated cancer defense mechanisms built into the human body. That activity is sleep. When most people hear discussions about cancer prevention, they immediately think about diet, exercise, supplements, or medical screenings. Rarely does sleep receive the attention it deserves. However, decades of research have revealed that quality sleep plays a critical role in maintaining the body's ability to identify and eliminate abnormal cells before they become dangerous. Inside your immune system are highly specialized cells known as natural killer cells, often called NK cells. These cells function as an internal security force. Their job is to patrol your bloodstream and tissues continuously, searching for infected, damaged, or potentially cancerous cells. When they find a threat, they attack and destroy it before it can multiply. This process, known as immune surveillance, is one of the most important protective mechanisms your body possesses. Every day, abnormal cells emerge within the body. Most never become a problem because the immune system identifies them early and removes them. But for this system to function properly, it requires something many adults consistently fail to prioritize: deep, restorative sleep. During the deepest stages of sleep, particularly slow-wave sleep, your body releases a variety of biological messengers that help regulate immune function. These signals support the production, activation, and efficiency of natural killer cells. In other words, while you sleep, your body is actively strengthening the very defenses that help protect you from disease. Unfortunately, aging creates new challenges. As people move into their 50s, 60s, and beyond, the amount of deep sleep they naturally experience often begins to decline. Many older adults spend less time in the restorative stages of sleep than they did when they were younger. This means the body's ability to support optimal immune surveillance may weaken at precisely the stage of life when protection becomes even more important. Research has repeatedly demonstrated how serious this issue can become. Studies have found that even short periods of sleep deprivation can dramatically reduce natural killer cell activity. In some cases, individuals who consistently slept fewer than 6 hours per night experienced substantial declines in immune performance despite otherwise being healthy. Think about what that means. A person may eat well, exercise regularly, maintain a healthy weight, and avoid smoking, yet chronic sleep deprivation could still be quietly weakening one of their body's most important cancer-fighting systems. Large-scale analyses involving millions of participants have also identified clear associations between chronic sleep deprivation and increased risk of several forms of cancer. While sleep alone does not determine whether someone develops cancer, the evidence strongly suggests that insufficient sleep can contribute to biological conditions that make disease more likely. One patient I worked with, whom we'll call Robert, illustrates this point perfectly. Robert was 63 years old and had recently retired after a successful engineering career. Like many professionals, he prided himself on functioning with minimal sleep. For years, he averaged 5 to 6 hours per night and believed he was doing just fine. When a routine medical screening identified a precancerous growth, Robert began taking a closer look at his health habits. What made his case particularly interesting was that he already followed many conventional recommendations. He exercised regularly, he maintained a healthy weight, he didn't smoke. Yet his sleep was fragmented, inconsistent, and significantly shorter than recommended. Instead of focusing solely on medications or additional testing, we worked on improving his sleep quality. He established a consistent bedtime. He reduced exposure to bright screens during the evening. He created a cooler sleeping environment and followed a predictable nightly routine. Most importantly, he committed to waking up at the same time every single day. Within a matter of weeks, the changes became noticeable. He reported sleeping longer and feeling more refreshed during the day. Objective measurements showed substantial improvements in deep sleep duration. Follow-up testing revealed meaningful increases in markers associated with healthy immune function. Perhaps the most important lesson from Robert's experience is that improving sleep doesn't require expensive equipment or complicated interventions. In many cases, the greatest benefits come from consistency. Sleep researchers often emphasize a concept known as anchor sleep. The principle is surprisingly simple. Rather than obsessing over the exact time you fall asleep each night, focus on waking up at the same time every morning. This regular wake-up time helps stabilize your circadian rhythm, the internal clock that regulates countless biological processes throughout the body. Many people are surprised to learn that a consistent wake-up schedule may be even more important than a consistent bedtime. When your internal clock becomes synchronized, sleep quality often improves naturally. If you're looking for one practical step to implement immediately, start there. Choose a wake-up time and stick to it every day, including weekends. This single habit can begin strengthening your sleep architecture and improving the restorative processes that occur during the night. Now here's where things become even more powerful. Remember the dietary improvements we discussed earlier? When reduced inflammation from better nutrition is combined with stronger immune function from quality sleep, the benefits don't simply add together. They often reinforce one another. The body becomes better equipped to repair damage, regulate inflammation, and support its natural defense systems. Yet as important as these first two habits are, they primarily prepare the foundation for what comes next. The third habit directly influences some of the most important biological pathways associated with cancer growth and prevention. Unfortunately, it is also one of the most misunderstood health recommendations ever given. The moment many adults hear the word exercise, they immediately imagine intense gym sessions, exhausting workouts, heavy weights, painful running programs, or activities that feel unrealistic and unsustainable. As a result, countless people dismiss the idea before they even begin. But what if cancer prevention doesn't require any of those things? What if one of the most effective strategies involves something far simpler? The truth is that the human body was designed to move, not necessarily to train like an athlete or spend hours in a fitness center, but to engage in regular, purposeful movement throughout the day. And according to growing scientific evidence, this movement has profound effects on some of the biological systems most closely linked to cancer risk. To understand why, we need to look at a hormone known as insulin-like growth factor 1, or IGF-1. IGF-1 plays an essential role in growth and repair throughout life. During youth, it supports healthy development. However, as we age, chronically elevated levels of this hormone can create an environment that encourages abnormal cell growth. Researchers often describe elevated IGF-1 as one of the factors capable of helping damaged cells survive and multiply. This is where movement becomes incredibly important. Regular daily activity has been shown to help regulate IGF-1 levels while simultaneously supporting several natural tumor-suppressing mechanisms within the body. One of the most important of these involves a protein called p53, often referred to as the guardian of the genome because of its role in preventing damaged cells from progressing toward cancer. And the fascinating part is that achieving these benefits does not necessarily require intense exercise programs. Some of the most impressive improvements have been observed through consistent, moderate movement practiced day after day. In the next section, we'll explore exactly how this works, why sitting for long periods may be more harmful than many people realize, and how a simple daily routine can begin transforming cancer-related risk factors in ways most adults never expect. In the next section, we'll explore exactly how this works, why sitting for long periods may be more harmful than many people realize, and how a simple daily routine can begin transforming cancer-related risk factors in ways most adults never expect. One of the biggest misconceptions surrounding health after the age of 50 is the belief that meaningful benefits only come from intense physical exercise. Many people assume that if they can't run several miles, spend hours in a gym, or complete demanding workout routines, then movement won't make much difference. Fortunately, science tells a very different story. The body responds remarkably well to consistent movement, even when that movement is simple. Walking, stretching, standing more frequently, and interrupting long periods of sitting can trigger important biological changes that directly affect cancer-related pathways. These benefits occur because movement influences hormones, inflammation levels, immune activity, blood sugar regulation, and cellular repair processes all at the same time. Let's return to IGF-1, the hormone we mentioned earlier. While IGF-1 serves useful functions throughout life, chronically elevated levels can become problematic as we age. Researchers have found that many cancer cells thrive in environments where growth-promoting signals remain constantly active. When the body receives continuous messages encouraging cell growth and proliferation, damaged cells may gain opportunities to survive when they should have been eliminated. Regular movement helps regulate this process. Studies have consistently shown that physically active individuals tend to maintain healthier levels of IGF-1 compared with those who spend most of their day sedentary. At the same time, movement supports the activation of protective mechanisms that help identify and control abnormal cells. One of the most important of these protective mechanisms involves a protein called p53. Scientists often describe p53 as one of the body's most powerful tumor suppressors. Its role is to monitor cells for damage and stop potentially dangerous cells from continuing to divide. When functioning properly, p53 acts like a quality control inspector, helping maintain order inside the body. Research has shown that regular physical activity supports healthier p53 function, creating another layer of protection against cellular abnormalities. Large population studies continue to reinforce the importance of movement. Researchers following hundreds of thousands of adults over many years have repeatedly found that people who engage in consistent moderate activity experience significantly lower risks of developing several forms of cancer. In addition, cancer survivors who remain physically active often demonstrate better long-term outcomes compared with those who remain sedentary. Perhaps even more surprising are studies examining prolonged sitting. Many people assume that a daily workout completely offsets the effects of sitting for hours at a desk or in front of a television. Unfortunately, the evidence suggests that extended periods of inactivity create their own set of biological challenges. When individuals remain seated for long stretches without interruption, blood sugar regulation becomes less efficient, inflammatory markers may rise, and metabolic health can begin to deteriorate. Researchers have discovered that simply standing up and walking for a few minutes every hour can significantly improve several of these risk factors. This means that cancer prevention isn't only about exercising more, it's also about sitting less. One patient who demonstrated the power of this approach was a woman we'll call Eleanor. Eleanor was 71 years old and had successfully completed treatment for early-stage breast cancer several years earlier. While she was grateful for her recovery, she lived with a constant fear that the disease might return. Like many adults in their 70s, she also faced physical limitations. Arthritis made traditional exercise programs uncomfortable, and she worried that her mobility challenges prevented her from improving her health. Instead of focusing on what she couldn't do, we focused on what she could. Her plan was intentionally simple. She began taking a brisk walk after breakfast each morning. During the evening, she spent less time sitting continuously and made an effort to stand more frequently. While reading during the afternoon, she set reminders to get up and move every hour. These changes may sound modest, but their effects were anything but small. Over time, improvements began appearing in her laboratory markers. Hormonal indicators associated with cancer risk moved in a healthier direction. Immune function improved. Most importantly, Eleanor noticed dramatic changes in her everyday life. Her energy increased. Her confidence grew. Activities that once felt exhausting became easier. Her story highlights an important principle. Health improvements rarely come from one dramatic action. They emerge from consistent daily behaviors that gradually shift the body's internal environment toward resilience and repair. If you're wondering where to begin, one of the most effective strategies is surprisingly straightforward. Start with a 20-minute walk after your largest meal of the day. Research suggests that post-meal walking provides unique metabolic benefits. After eating, blood sugar levels naturally rise. Gentle movement helps the body process glucose more efficiently, reducing spikes that may contribute to inflammation and other metabolic disturbances. Over time, these seemingly small improvements can accumulate into meaningful health advantages. The beauty of this recommendation is its accessibility. It doesn't require expensive equipment, a gym membership, or specialized training. Most people can begin exactly where they are and gradually build from there. And when purposeful movement is combined with healthier nutrition and improved sleep, something remarkable begins to happen. Several of the body's most important cancer-related pathways start moving in the right direction simultaneously. Inflammation decreases, hormonal balance improves, immune surveillance strengthens, cellular repair processes become more efficient. Yet even with all these benefits, there remains another factor that quietly undermines health for millions of adults every day. Unlike diet, sleep, or movement, this factor is often invisible. It doesn't always show up in blood tests immediately. It may not cause physical symptoms right away, yet over time, it can influence nearly every system in the body. I'm talking about chronic stress. The word itself has become so common that many people barely pay attention to it anymore. Stress is often treated as an unavoidable part of modern life, something to tolerate rather than address. But from a biological perspective, chronic stress is far more than an unpleasant emotional experience. It creates measurable physiological changes that directly affect immune function, inflammation, hormonal balance, and cellular repair. In fact, some researchers now believe that chronic psychological stress may be one of the most underestimated contributors to disease progression in older adults. At the center of this process is a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol serves an important purpose. During short-term challenges, it helps the body respond quickly and effectively. It increases alertness, mobilizes energy, and prepares us to handle immediate threats. In the right situations, cortisol is incredibly useful. Problems arise when cortisol remains elevated for weeks, months, or even years. When stress becomes chronic, the body's emergency response system never fully turns off. Instead of experiencing occasional bursts of cortisol, individuals may remain trapped in a constant state of physiological activation. Over time, this can disrupt sleep, increase inflammation, impair immune function, and interfere with some of the body's most important repair mechanisms. Even more concerning, researchers have discovered that chronic stress can influence genes involved in DNA repair and cellular protection. These are the very systems responsible for identifying and correcting damage before it becomes dangerous. In other words, prolonged stress doesn't simply affect how you feel. It can alter how your body functions at the cellular level. And what researchers have learned about this connection over the past several years may completely change the way you think about cancer prevention. And what researchers have learned about this connection over the past several years may completely change the way you think about cancer prevention. For many people, stress feels like an emotional issue rather than a medical one. It's often viewed as something that affects mood, patience, or quality of life. While those effects are certainly real, the biological consequences of chronic stress run much deeper. Scientists now understand that persistent psychological stress can trigger changes throughout the body that directly influence health outcomes, especially after the age of 50. At the center of this process is cortisol, often referred to as the body's primary stress hormone. Under normal circumstances, cortisol follows a healthy daily rhythm. Levels rise in the morning to help you wake up and become alert, then gradually decline throughout the day before reaching their lowest point at night. This natural cycle supports energy production, immune function, sleep quality, and countless other biological processes. However, chronic stress disrupts this rhythm. When the body remains under constant pressure, whether from financial worries, loneliness, caregiving responsibilities, grief, anxiety, or unresolved emotional burdens, cortisol can become chronically elevated or irregular. Instead of following its normal pattern, the hormone may remain active at times when it should be decreasing. Over months and years, this disruption creates widespread consequences throughout the body. One of the most concerning effects involves DNA repair. Researchers have discovered that prolonged cortisol exposure can interfere with genes responsible for maintaining genetic stability. These protective systems normally help identify and repair cellular damage before it accumulates. When stress disrupts their function, damaged cells may survive longer than they should. At the same time, chronic stress can increase inflammatory activity throughout the body. Inflammation itself is not inherently harmful. In fact, it is an essential part of healing and immune defense. The problem occurs when inflammation becomes persistent and never fully resolves. Under those conditions, the body remains trapped in a state that may encourage cellular dysfunction rather than recovery. Studies examining large populations have revealed striking associations between chronic stress and various forms of disease. Individuals experiencing prolonged psychological distress often show weakened immune responses, higher levels of inflammatory markers, and reduced effectiveness of the very immune cells responsible for identifying abnormal cells. One patient who demonstrated this connection vividly was a man we'll call David. At 66 years old, David had recently retired after decades in a demanding executive role. From the outside, his life appeared relatively stress-free. He was no longer managing large teams or handling constant workplace pressures. Friends assumed he was finally enjoying a more relaxed lifestyle, yet his body told a different story. Testing revealed that his cortisol rhythm had become severely disrupted. Instead of peaking in the morning and declining at night, his stress hormone levels followed an abnormal pattern. Researchers sometimes refer to this condition as allostatic load, a state in which years of accumulated stress continue affecting the body even after the original stressors have disappeared. David wasn't consciously anxious every day, but his biology remained trapped in a stress response. To address this issue, he adopted several simple but consistent habits. Each morning, he practiced controlled breathing exercises designed to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest and recovery. In the evenings, he took quiet walks without distractions or electronic devices. He also prioritized meaningful social interactions, reconnecting with friends and participating in regular gatherings. The changes were gradual but measurable. Over several months, markers associated with stress and inflammation began moving in a healthier direction. His cortisol rhythm improved, immune indicators strengthened. Most importantly, he felt more energetic, more focused, and more resilient. His experience highlights an important lesson. Managing stress does not require eliminating every challenge from life. That would be impossible. Instead, it involves creating regular opportunities for the body to return to a state of balance. One of the simplest and most effective techniques involves mindful breathing. Research has shown that just 12 minutes of slow, controlled breathing each day can significantly reduce cortisol levels while supporting immune function. A common approach uses a simple pattern. Inhale through the nose for 4 seconds, hold the breath for 7 seconds, and exhale slowly for 8 seconds. Repeated consistently, this practice helps shift the nervous system away from chronic activation and toward recovery. What makes stress management particularly important is its connection to every other habit we've discussed. Poor sleep increases stress. Chronic stress disrupts sleep. Inflammation worsens both conditions. Physical activity helps reduce stress hormones. Healthy nutrition supports emotional resilience. Each factor influences the others in powerful ways. This interconnected relationship explains why effective cancer prevention is rarely about a single magic solution. Instead, it involves creating a biological environment where the body's natural defense systems can operate at their highest level. And yet, despite the tremendous importance of nutrition, sleep, movement, and stress regulation, there is still one habit that stands above the rest. This final habit brings together nearly every mechanism we've discussed. It influences inflammation. It affects hormones, it supports cellular repair, it enhances metabolic health. It may even strengthen some of the body's most fundamental anti-aging processes. What makes it even more remarkable is its simplicity. No expensive equipment is required. No special supplements are necessary. No complicated workout plans are involved. And unlike many health interventions, it costs absolutely nothing. In nearly 3 decades of studying cancer prevention, few strategies have generated as much scientific interest as this one. Researchers around the world continue investigating its effects on longevity, metabolic health, cellular repair, immune function, and disease prevention. Yet despite the growing evidence, many people still misunderstand it completely. Some dismiss it as a temporary weight loss trend. Others assume it requires extreme deprivation or skipping meals for days at a time. In reality, neither assumption is accurate. The habit we're about to discuss is not primarily about losing weight. It's about activating one of the most powerful cellular maintenance systems ever discovered. A process that allows the body to identify damaged components, remove dysfunctional material, and recycle what is no longer serving its purpose. Scientists call this process autophagy. The name comes from Greek words meaning self-eating, though that description often creates confusion. Autophagy is not harmful. Quite the opposite. It is one of the body's most important housekeeping mechanisms. When conditions are right, cells begin identifying worn-out proteins, damaged structures, malfunctioning components, and other cellular debris. These materials are then broken down and recycled, helping maintain healthier cellular function. Think of it as a deep cleaning process occurring inside your body. When autophagy operates efficiently, damaged material is removed before it accumulates. Cellular quality control improves. Repair mechanisms become more effective. The body essentially performs maintenance that supports long-term health. The challenge is that modern lifestyles often prevent this process from reaching its full potential. Many people begin eating early in the morning, continue snacking throughout the day, and consume additional food late into the evening. As a result, the body spends very little time in a truly fasted state. Without adequate fasting periods, autophagy remains limited. And according to growing research, this may have important implications for aging, metabolic health, and cancer prevention. In the next section, we'll explore exactly how this process works, the fascinating studies that brought it to the attention of the medical community, and why many researchers now consider it one of the most powerful lifestyle interventions available for adults over 50.